Good
Are we live?
afternoon. Yes,
What
we are
happened to our cute
live.
intro?
Oh, what was the intro? My bad.
Eating the popcorn.
Okay. We should start eating popcorn. I mean, today would have been the perfect day to eat popcorn because it is 11, almost 11:30.
It's true. Popcorn at 9:30 a.m. is probably a bit aggressive.
I love popcorn, so I will eat it at all times a day.
How are you? Happy Monday. Happy survival of week one.
We are in a long haul survival mode.
We are. We have to celebrate every week we survive.
We do. Let's not be so not. Is it nihilistic? Is that the word? Nihilistic.
Yeah, nihilistic is the word. I have nihilistic tendencies. Someone pointed it out to me. I blame
We
the
will.
ancestors for that.
We gonna be all right for real, for real, for real. It's going
We
to
are.
be. Let me just do a little check to make sure that we live
We are live. I see there are two people here.
on YouTube.
Hi, everyone.
Sometimes I get nervous because I have this set up via my software, and then I was like, oh, I just did a live stream last week, but I looked at it and I said politics popped.
It looks like it's working.
Politics. When I search politics, oh, we show up now.
I know at first we didn't. At first, YouTube was like, this is not actually a thing.
No, I don't think we're streaming to the right destination.
Where are we? We're somewhere on the internet right now.
Maybe we're on my YouTube channel.
Let me look at YouTube and see.
Show up now.
I know.
No, we're on Politics Pops. It's just unlisted. Okay. Oh, I've been
Oh,
streaming
that's
them.
what's wrong.
Oh, you know what it was? It's because I stream my stuff unlisted for Patreon. Something was telling me I need to. Okay, I can fix this real quick. Sorry, guys. Sorry, y'all.
I was wondering because remember when I went to look for the link, I was like, I don't see it on here.
Dun 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 dun. I'm a smart one.
Yay! Now we're fixed.
Oh, you fixed it?
No, I was waiting on you. I can go in and do it though.
No, I got
And
it.
log in.
I did it.
Okay, I'm gonna refresh and confirm. Yes, it says we are live.
We need to add. You were supposed to add some thumbnails last week, Stephanie.
Yes, we were. It's gonna get done. It's all gonna get finished. It's all gonna get finished. How are y'all? Changing the subject. Listen, so much work for a new endeavor, but it's good.
It is. It's what I mean. You gotta. It's just the two of us.
It is
already overbooked and overworked.
But it's gonna be fun. It's fun. I'm glad we're doing this. I will make my thumbnails.
Okay.
Baby steps. How are y'all? How's y'all's Monday going? Oh, there's an echo. Okay, let's double check.
Oh, on Stephanie's end, there's
yeah. It says the mic is in.
Because my mic is. It might just be because my mic is so close to the computer, but I will move it closer to me so now you can hear me better.
Let me see. It might be also, you know why? Because I logged into YouTube while we're doing this to check. So let me close out every single tab. Should sound better now. Nope, still echoing. Maybe I'll exit and then come back in.
I'll put headphones on.
Okay. Are you sure?
Well, how else do we get rid of the echo?
It wasn't there last week.
I know, but I rehooked up I took my mic apart and then rehooked it up.
Tech enough. Oh yeah, I hear myself.
Cancellation off, so
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. That might clear up the echo. Why are you making that face?
Oh no, I'm waiting to see if someone says they can still hear.
It's like a 2 minute delay. It's gonna take too long for them to say. We just gotta keep moving and see if they catch up with us.
Okay. I think it's fine now. No one's saying anything.
Okay. Well, look, people have joined. Good morning. We have some guests
Yes.
today. Look at us. Okay, wait.
We've
Uh,
stuck to it. I'm proud of us. Oh, the echo is gone. Yay. Thank you,
yeah.
Kayla.
See, look, one tech
Well,
savvy person is all you need.
that's all you need. And it's never going to be me. So,
We try, we try, we try. Well, let's kick off with this week's news. We, as always, are trying to provide some, as Stephanie puts it, levity to what is going to be a very egregious news cycle for at least the next 2 years.
yes. And actually, there is a proposed bill where I forget the name of the Republican representative. They are proposing a bill to change the Constitution to potentially allow Trump for a third term. So I think some of the bills that they file are just to get a rise out of people.
Yes.
But it is interesting just to kind of see them testing the waters in the first month of like, okay, well, what can we get away with and also get a rise out of people?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think the
best
news
case
cycle
scenario,
is
2 years.
the news cycle is set up to tire you out. It is
Yes.
set up to exhaust you and to feel like you should just check out and let these people do what they want to do.
But you can't
Okay.
do that.
So, I think for the next cycle, for the next few weeks, we are going to be talking a lot about immigration.
I agree. Yes.
It is just going to be it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think particularly it's going to dominate the news cycle because based on Trump's very racist, misogynist, xenophobic, all of that platform, the quickest thing that he can implement is the immigration plan. Partially because to what you had brought up last week, Julesy,
Biden
the
administration.
Democrats, Biden administration already had a lot of the mechanisms for this in place,
And
unfortunately.
I think this is the swiftness at which immigration can be enacted is not only just because of the 4 years of the Biden administration. It is that the Democrats, particularly around immigration policy, have been running center right, and they've
Hmm.
constantly been reactionary to Republicans trying to prove that they can what is the word deport more
Hmm.
immigrants, be more aggressive, fund the border patrol more, just be more hardline on immigration policy.
Hmm.
And so we had this back and forth this past weekend over Colombia's president. This is the Colombian foreign minister, Luis Gilberto Murillo. Nice to see a black Colombian man in power. Okay.
Yes. Their vice
Saying
president is also a black woman.
Oh, we should. Well, okay. Saying his
Hmm.
country would receive returning Colombian nationals who were deported from the United States following a showdown with Washington over accepting the flights. The announcement came hours after President Donald Trump threatened steep tariffs on imports and other sanctions in the long time on the longtime U.S. partner.
And I think one of the interesting things was a lot of the, I would say, like mainstream news cycles instead of like telling the whole veracity of the statements that the Colombian president made and the foreign minister as well, they then decided to narrow down on the fact that the president stated, like, hey, no, I'm not letting these planes land. And his reasoning was, you are treating my citizens with such disrespect, such crassness. They put them in like military grade planes that didn't actually have proper seating, to which the Colombian president, he wanted to send the presidential plane to get people, because people should be treated with respect. Like, just because you are going through a deportation process doesn't mean you have to dehumanize people. And a lot of, I would say, like the right wing media and even like the middle of the road media did not capture that properly, like in my opinion.
Yeah, so here in the AP News article, breaking news, let's do it like TikTok. Breaking news. Colombia has
I feel like we need
agreed.
a pencil. Breaking news.
Breaking news, Colombia has agreed to take back immigrants that they previously declined after Trump threatened 25% tariffs on all Colombian incoming goods, which would be raised by to 50% in 1 week if they did not agree to take back Colombian undocumented immigrants, and other retaliatory measures sparked by President Gustavo Petro's decision to reject two Colombia-bound U.S. military aircraft carrying migrants. Now, remember, I don't know, did you guys watch Tyler Perry's latest movie on Netflix? What is it, 738, 638, 538?
No,
What's the name of the
I
Tyler
did.
Perry film with Kerry Washington and her quivering lip? Oh my God.
Oh, I forgot that that is his film. It is on my list to watch because
Because
I do love a period piece.
it was decent. It was decent.
It was okay. I was nervous. I was like, "What is he about to do?" With the history. I'm not
Six
gonna
triple
lie.
eight. Okay, six triple
It,
eight. My bad,
yes.
y'all. It was very okay, but they have a scene in there where they're sending the black women because of the racism of the military at that time. They sent black women, enlisted army people, over
Mm.
to the Europes in a plane that did not have seats, in a cargo plane. So they would slip. Oh wait, did they send them over in a cargo plane, or were they on a ship? Whatever. Okay, yeah, 688. There was some scene where they wasn't a plane. They had planes during that time. It was a plane. There was a scene of them in a
Mm.
plane, and they didn't have the proper. They was slip sliding around. And this is what I'm thinking of with the Colombian immigrants. Now, the thing about Colombia in particular is that we do not have a high amount of Colombian undocumented immigrants in this country.
No.
They're far behind Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, and India. Which, interestingly enough, I am interested to see what happens
I'm
with
interested to see
Indian
what
immigrants in
happens.
this country.
I'm curious because, well, we have to look at the stats. I don't want to talk out of turn of the stats on how Indian Americans are voting, but it's interesting to see that the Indian Americans that are placed in positions of power, you have like Governor Jindal, former Governor Jindal of Louisiana,
Bobby
um,
Jindal,
Nimrata, aka Nikki Haley of South Carolina,
Carolina, Republicans,
Vivek,
Republicans.
who got pushed out from his own job,
Doge.
um, prominently are featured and do hold a lot of completely, I would say, like alt-right feelings, conservatism,
They all
etc.
have white partners.
It's very fascinating. It's very
But JD
fascinating.
Vance is married to an Indian woman, is he not?
He is. And I think the caste system also plays an effect as well, where the assumption is a lot of these right-wing Indian American politicians that they also come from a higher caste, so they are extremely conservative for Indian people as well. I would say varying levels that India does have a somewhat conservative culture. Unfortunately, they have their own conservative dictator currently in Modi. But it is going to be interesting to see whether or not, because they are trying to drum up support from other minority groups, whether or not you see the publicizing of deportation of people from that group. Because I have yet to see any pictures of them deporting Eastern European people, and Russians do make up a large percentage of undocumented immigrants in this country, particularly in Miami, which is very interesting. Like in Miami, it is a very common practice. If you have anybody that is a Caribbean nurse, most people are nurses. It is a common practice where people are coming and they're having babies, particularly from Russia, in Miami hospitals, which is very interesting, so that we can get dual citizenship. However, that is not what's being publicized. What's being publicized is Black immigrants. So a lot of emphasis on Haitian immigrants, and then a lot of emphasis on Hispanic/Latino immigrants.
I think the focus on Latino immigrants in particular, as much as people feed into it, I don't think people really understand the history between the United States and Central America in particular.
Yeah.
Like, what was the
A great
Alamo?
point.
Like, what is America and Manifest Destiny? And who was there before they manifested their destiny from sea to shining sea? Like, sea
A
to
lot of these
shining
people are
sea.
technically like in their homeland. Like a lot of people who are undocumented Mexican immigrants in Texas are actually not necessarily. They're like, I've been here my whole life. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, and the
It's just
fact
where the
that
border was drawn.
immigration policy has always been quite complicated and murky in the United States because we rely, like, I was reading articles on the little tiff that Trump ended up having with the Colombian president this weekend, where
Hmm.
he threatens these really high tariffs, that, and like, what is the real consequence, and like what is really happening that urges President Petro of Colombia to acquiesce to Trump's administration. And, you know, can these countries leave? Can Mexico, um, lessen its relationship with the United States? And who is truly reliant? Because so often Western media will portray a Colombia and a Mexico as countries that are heavily reliant on the U.S., and it's much more of a symbiotic relationship where both
Hmm.
the U.S., particularly when it comes to Mexico, the U.S. is also reliant on Mexico. We
All
have
the
trade
avocados.
agreements. Yeah, maybe if you're in, especially if you're in Texas, all your groceries come from Central America.
Hmm. And I
What makes
think
HEB so great is its access to Central America.
I've heard about HEB. I have yet to go, but I
It's
hear that it
great.
rivals Publix. So I'm like,
Colombia
oh,
did give
fascinating.
in. Yes, Colombia ended up changing. I don't know. I cause also, like, a lot of these news articles don't give enough detail to say,
They
well,
agree.
what did the White House do? Like, were there certain, because it wasn't that Colombia was unwilling to take undocumented migrants back. It was that they needed to be returned with a certain amount of dignity. But then
Hmm.
Marco Rubio, is he to be trusted, who is now our Secretary of State, said
Yeah.
that no military aircraft leaves for another country without the other country first approving that military aircraft to come. Hence why Mexico, um, hence why Mexico has not, it's not been announced that Mexico received back migrants since Trump became president. Okay, somebody's saying in the last couple of hours there's been another update, but I checked for this
Mm,
news at 9
no,
a.m. This is
yeah,
the
I
latest
think I
update at
think the
9
final
a.m.
yeah, I think the final update now, because Al Jazeera, who out of all the people reporting, I'm like, okay, this is the most objective out of the sources currently. Democracy Now! Hasn't done their report yet, but the headline from Al Jazeera is how Trump coerced Colombia to accept deportees by threatening U.S. tariff war. So I do think they went back and forth, but Colombia then finally did cede the issue. And then, according to BBC, between the two countries, the amount that's being traded is about 53.5 billion dollars, with Colombia's three most valuable imports to the U.S. being oil, coffee, and cut flowers.
Yes,
Um,
that's what the
so,
New York
it, to
Times
your
reported
point,
as
that it is a
well.
very symbiotic relationship. I think it's also one of the things that's missed, particularly from the immigration conversation when it comes to Central America, South America, and the Caribbean specifically. You could really apply it to the entirety, like three-quarters of the world. But the US and the US government has specifically destabilized most of these countries. So they have
Uh,
gone in and run amok. So that is why people are immigrating. They're not immigrating
what is
because they
what is
want
the issue
to.
that's currently happening in Colombia? Because they're saying that the current president,
Excuse
who
me.
is a former rebel and now does identify as a socialist, is at 34% popularity, which is low. But that is because, like, what are the other things happening, and who are the institutions and powers that
Mm-hmm.
are agitating these situations to create a very vulnerable president who might actually be doing good for his people, but is
Mm-hmm.
constrained by the allies. And Colombia is one of the United States' longest standing allies in Central America. But I also think that
Which ally used loosely.
Trump might force people's hands, that they
Mm-hmm.
have to reconsider their allyship to the United States, especially if they're going to be constantly manipulated against the goodwill or better will of the people that live in that country. Because when we really, if we were ever to dig deeply into these trade agreements done under Bill Clinton, NAFTA,
Mm-hmm.
and we think about the way corporate entities can influence the way agriculture goes in these countries, it really hurts the people in the long run. A lot of the migrant crisis has been agitated by either the American government itself or American corporate power doing nasty work in those countries. And you can go all the way back to before Texas took over so much of Mexico, that there has always been this very complex, complicated relationship, particularly with people coming back and forth across the Mexican United States border because we need
Mm-hmm.
their labor.
Yes.
We have markets that are dominated by them, imports that are dominated by them, but also the labor force. And the same
Mm-hmm.
people that will fight to keep immigrants out are the same people that do the most exploitation and just want the law to be for everyone else but them.
And it's also interesting because one of the things that Trump is running on is huge anti-immigration push, of course, but also this idea that he's telling like the common people, like we're going to lower the inflation is out of hand. Inflation is out of hand. Somehow, do mental gymnastics. It's the immigrants' fault. What is going to happen as we see mass deportation and as we see it's going to coincide with deregulation, which is one of the things he's running on. Like we need less government oversight. Let the corporation do whatever it wants to do. The reason why the U.S. agriculture is dependent on immigrant labor is because they knowingly are not paying these people. They barely pay them because we don't have good
I
labor
mean, but
laws in
like,
this
who was
country.
the migrant worker before the migrant? The sharecropper,
Negroes.
the enslaved black, and it wasn't that black
Exactly.
people, like as a person who
Exactly.
comes, like my family wasn't necessarily sharecroppers in Florida. They were migrant workers. They were going up and
Mm-hmm.
down the East Coast harvesting. And when civil rights happened and then black people became citizens of the United States who had certain labor laws over them,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the migrant worker, particularly on the eastern coast, migrant worker always existed in the Sun
In the
Belt from
West Coast, yeah.
California to Texas, Arizona. What's the other state in there?
Washington State
No,
has a
on the
lot of because
southern
there's
border.
apples. Oh, I thought we were talking about just the West
I
Coast.
said the
I
Sun
know my
Belt. The
geography.
Sun Belt.
I heard West Coast, and I was like,
It's
oh,
Arizona. It's another state. It's another state in between. Is it? It's just California, Arizona, Texas. No,
Oklahoma's over there,
Oklahoma's north of
but
Texas.
there's not. Oklahoma's north of Texas.
Yeah, girl.
What technically is the Sun Belt? Child, I'm like,
Did you
who,
get an
who are
education in the
those
United? Is this
people
New
there?
Mexico? Thank y'all. Oh my gosh. It's the
I
Sun
would have
Belt
never
is
guessed
Southern
that.
California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas.
I thought I thought California was just like parts of it were called the Southwest. Like I didn't know the Sun Belt was interesting. Okay,
Well,
I'm
because
gonna
the
read up
Sun
on
Belt has
this.
a distinct migration of white people from the Midwest, which is really where the anti-abortion movement launched.
I'm
Between
looking at all
and
these
it
maps now. Like,
overlaps. Yeah, thank y'all,
I'm
thank
like all
y'all.
of the
There's a
South is
delay, so we
included.
asking the question, and y'all are like,
I feel like we should share this on the screen because I'm like all of the South plus Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of California are included in what is the Sun Belt. Huh?
yes,
You should show the map
I should show the map.
here.
Okay.
I think it's good learning. It's good. I'm like, hmm.
So
Or
we're
show
talking.
show the one for Britannica I just sent in
Oh,
our
you
get in
sent
our
one
guest
for
chat.
Britannica.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sun Belt has a really if you ever want to really get
Fascinating.
into like the idea of the American citizen and immigration, yes. Okay,
This is
they're
so
saying it's from Florida.
yeah. So I'm like, so all of the South plus Southern California, Arizona, New
Okay, well, so when
Mexico.
I'm talking
Okay,
about the Sun
interesting.
Belt, I'm talking about like this region right here.
Okay,
So,
Texas, Oklahoma,
yeah, because
westward.
this all to
Okay,
me is the South, pretty firmly the
right?
Southern United
Okay.
States
I'm
right
like, this is
here.
interesting.
And all these states have a very interesting history around slavery, around this country that's below them, about
Hmm.
the valley area that's the border here, the Rio Grande Valley. I forget the name of the valley in California, and the indigenous people that were all moved west,
Yes.
and how that squares up then with America deciding manifest destiny this is mine as well.
Thank you for the geography lesson.
Y'all are welcome. They have a particular very interesting history about the migration of white people, particularly from the Midwest, and how
Mhm.
that colors identity in that region, in particular to Texas, which is why it was so funny to me when TikTok decided that only people, first of all, that Beyonce's NFL performance was a protest, and that only people from Texas and Houston could talk about or critique that performance. Is that if that is a performance representing Texas history, the American flag, that makes the American flag choice a little bit worse because Texas's
Yeah.
history.
There's a Black American flag. There's a Juneteenth flag.
The Juneteenth flag, high key, was in the performance, but it wasn't prominently featured. The There's just a particularly brutal history of Texas and the making of Texas and then I'm American identity and what the US government in particular, how they had to engage and forgive and then give governance to these movements that were very brutal to the Mexican indigenous people that already existed there. And that is then how we get they're absorbed into the border patrol, they're absorbed into the Texas modernization of the Texas police,
Mm.
and this is very nasty history that particularly exists in that region, but also highlights for the people that live there and generationally have stayed in that region a very complicated history with wanting access to what Mexico has to offer, both in its people, its labor, and its resources, but want the laws to work for them when they want them to work for them.
Yeah. And I think maybe that also probably dovetails in to why there is a large percentage of Mexican Americans that unfortunately did vote for Trump. And overwhelmingly, there are a very large percentage of immigrants in general that honestly are pro
10 out of
deportation.
10 religion. I say that is how Christianity and sort of the colonial input of Christianity into these communities really creates, I think Christianity amongst black women creates very fertile ground for pushing us towards alt right. Because technically, if you want to make if you want to make abortion your calling card.
I think maybe a touch of Christianity and then a load of very delusional belief in the lie that is the American dream. And wanting to be like, well, I was already here. I did everything the right way, whatever the right way you define for yourself. And I have all my correct paperwork. So why can't other people do what I did the right way? Which is like the most American thing to do is pull yourself up by
Rather than
fake
the
bootstraps
bootstraps.
and then pull up the ladder behind you. Like Greg Abbott, the governor of
Of
Texas,
Texas, who's in a wheelchair.
who's and hates disabled people.
Texas has some
It's the
horrendous
wildest thing to
disability
see.
rights, yeah. I think the immigrant community is, you kind of do have to segment it, and there's different things happening amongst different groups of people and how they engage. I also think media and the media that is portrayed to them or focuses on them, because
Mm-hmm.
conservative movements are happening all throughout the world, and so if
Yeah.
conservatism is what Europe has gone through as conservative movement, a lot of Central and South American presidents, you're getting a mixed bag, but there are strong conservative movements in those countries. A lot of it relies on religion and this sort of populist identity. I think it's patriarchy in part, it's
Mm-hmm.
capitalism and everyone believe, and social media, this idea that we all have the opportunity to ascend to great wealth, and that somehow
Which
the
is not going to
Republicans
happen.
represent that because Trump is such a great businessman.
And even though he's actually a very awful businessman, the amount of bankruptcies he's had to file, but people also
Mm.
like the educated person doesn't even understand the tax code. I don't understand the tax code.
But there's a whole great ecosystem, as our next article represents. There's a really
When I
good
first clicked on this
ecosystem.
link, I thought my computer was broken, by the way.
Uh,
Thank you for that.
so Bloomberg published this long read last week on the second Trump presidency, brought to you by YouTubers. YouTube. Podcasters including Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, and Logan Paul. Let's see, can we identify them here? This is Joe Rogan. This is Theo Vaughn.
RFK is down to the left,
Andrew Schultz,
second row.
Charlemagne's bestie. This is RFK. I don't know who this guy is. Who is this?
The one in the middle row, I think that's Theo Vaughn, and then on the left side, and then on the right side is one of the I don't know the difference between the Logan brothers, but
Oh, maybe
is
he
one of
looks
them.
different. Is this Logan Paul here? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
don't
one in the
know.
middle row is I think is Logan. I don't is
Well,
one of them.
the article was highlighted. Oh, here we just had to scroll down a little bit. We don't know
How
our
many
white
right
boys.
wings
Sorry,
can you
sorry.
identify? It's right here.
Okay, Aiden Ross, Andrew Schultz, the Nelk Boys, Logan Paul, Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, Patrick Bet David, Sean Ryan, and Theo Vaughn. Reporters reviewed nearly 1,300 hours of footage from their channels and mapped out the podcasters' guest networks and quantified the frequency of key political messages that they distributed to tens of millions of subscribers each day. And the article kicks off by noting that particular players, especially those in this first row, were at Trump's 47th inauguration. And they had prominent seating in the Capitol Rotunda. The
They did
fact that
above politicians.
the fact that Rogan, the host of the world's most popular podcast, watched from the Capitol Rotunda as Republican luminaries like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis were confined to overflow speaks volumes about the new dynamics at play in Washington and the media writ large.
I mean, Ron DeSantis, who's a trifling trifer, he deserves to be an overflow. So that makes me chuckle. But it is very interesting to see this shift of. I think it's the veneer of, hey, we're comfortable with the media, this new administration, when really they're comfortable with certain types of media that will serve as propaganda. Because Elon Musk, who basically is our de facto VP esque, our co VP, he made a statement that Culture Work published in her newsletter that I got this morning. And his statement was, you are now the media. And by you, he means like the regular everyday person. And we are not the media. Like, journalists have training for a reason. They have a code of ethics. Like, they have research backgrounds, all of these things. And by allowing podcasts to pretend that they somehow have journalistic integrity when they don't, is very dangerous.
And it's crazy because, I keep going back to Biden not engaging with the media. And then when Kamala comes about, like, I've been thinking a lot about Kamala's commitment and loyalty to a Democratic Party that did not really truly embrace her.
Yeah.
And this overwhelming commitment to them leads her to do what she did, like, to compare to like Trump doing, I forget the number he did of podcast interviews, but Kamala did 8 maybe. And particularly on Call Her Daddy, which is like the big white girl podcast, she just gave
You know how I feel
canned
about that.
answers. It was such a scripted podcast episode, and you really like you don't hear from Kamala about what Kamala thinks. You get a politician giving politicians speak. And it was like a 15-20 minute episode, and
It was very short.
she does talking points. Versus, I will say, in this landscape, you get Trump or Trump's handlers doing these podcast interviews. And in the months leading up to the election, hosts had more politicians and pundits on their shows discuss the issues more frequently. You get hour and a half, 2 hour long episodes with these people. Trump is lying a lot of the time, but I think there is some vulnerability and intimacy that we need the Democrats to be willing, like, and are they willing to do? But 30% of the highly viewed videos mention voting or election. Hosts and guests frequently discuss voting and elections over the past 2 years. Look, and here, go from 2022 to this is all 2024
This is a great visual.
of all
This is great journalism.
Absolutely. This is a great way to tell it.
It also shows that one of the issues that the Harris campaign, as well as the Dems, ran into was a lot of the YouTube landscape, because this is YouTubers specifically, were rightfully uncomfortable too campaigned for something that we didn't believe in, and particularly we're uncomfortable when asked like, okay, well, can we push back on certain things, like if you were to have one of these interviews, can we ask about Palestine, can we do that? And the answer overwhelmingly from people that were approached was no. So then people declined to do it, which shows that the Democratic Party was not very much in tune or aligned with what the actual constituents were saying. The Democrats ran, when they were still trying to push Joe, they ran on the economy's fine, everything is fine. One of the nonprofits I worked with, that was one of the talking points they gave us. And I was like, first, I'm not going to say that because it's not true. I was like, this is a lie. Like, whose economy is fine? What are you talking about? And I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why you're trying to
And
get people to say something that they know, they can see is not true.
and the bigger issue, and people try to eat me up on TikTok because I said Project 2025 was fear mongering. I said that back in like, I think maybe 2023. Actually, I did that video
Mm-hmm.
right after the whole Gaza thing popped off. And so my thing is, it is fear mongering because this is already happening on the state level. The effectiveness of Trump to
Mm-mm.
get into office and incite a Project 2025 is because at the state level, a lot of these things have already been happening, and it is not effective campaigning for Democrats to run, oh, you don't want Project 2025. Okay, but what do we do want? If people currently feel like life is not good right now, telling them that we will maintain this life that does not feel good is not a valuable,
No.
it's
It's not
bad
incentive.
campaigning. To
Yeah.
tell them, oh, you don't want what this Project 2025. Okay, but you're not offering an alternative. You're not offering a firm plan to counter the fact that at the state level, and that's why I'm so kind of confused at, like, having worked with the Kamala Harris team in North Carolina, why there was not more of a push to engage with down ballot elections as a cohesive Democratic Party that is
Mm-hmm.
pushing. Is that left? I mean, essentially being for the people is left. And that doesn't
Be-
mean that you have to let go of your immigration policy, but that you have an immigration policy that is not, I do more deportations than the Republicans.
I think the Dems also ran into an issue, and there's like a huge difference, I would say, between Jamal Bowman, who's actually was my grandparents' representative,
And
and
was not
then
showing up.
Yeah, who like, oh,
But they go
he had
after
some,
the progressives. They go after AOC. They go
yeah,
after
and
they
then they went
unset
after Cori Bush,
Bush, who they
and so they
unset.
wasted all this Democratic money, eyeballs, fundraising to basically put in place
Wesley Bell.
Zionists and put in all these people to oust the progressives that most of the constituents were like, but I like my fellow progressive. Like, it's fine. That's good. I like
Okay,
this person.
but the Democrats are so uncomfortable with critique. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to always be complicated, but have some
Yeah.
balls. Like, stand for something and
That would be a
say,
great title for an email for the strategy meeting. Have some balls. We need, we need to go through what you did wrong.
I want to get back into this article because these graphics are just so good.
Amazing.
Let me see if
Great
I can.
journalism.
Yeah, they are talking about 30% of top guests are politicians or pundits, and they say the number of channels that had Donald Trump and the total views was 113.6 million views. And let's see, can we see who the person was? Oh, it just got. Let's say Seymour. Okay, so Donald Trump, and then we can see all the little white boys. Oh, Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is political. Tucker Carlson.
I did not
Elon
know that he
Musk.
counted as that.
So, like, and these are all right people.
Oh, no, no, no. Andrew Tate is counting as probably a pundit since it says politicians or pundits. So I'm assuming
Okay.
they're counting as a pundit. Mm,
Here are their most popular.
odd.
Who is I Show Speed? Is that a gamer? And who is Destiny?
I don't know, but Kai Sanat is on here, which is very
Yes.
interesting.
Well, he drums up a lot of views. He's popular. KSI. Wow. I really like. I need to call Candace Owens. Um. RFK. So of the administration, we have RFK, JD Vance, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, generating millions of views. Mm.
Mhm.
and really being willing to speak. Number of views. 10. Some channels had few, if
Oh,
any, political vests just before the election.
just to correct, because now that I'm reading the graph, so we read it again. It was saying 30% of the top. These are all the top guests. It's not
Yes.
counting Andrew Tate as a politician or pundit. He just was
Oh,
a top
okay.
guest.
He was just a
Yeah,
top
because I was like,
person.
wait, what did? And it's because I had cut it off on my end too. I was like, oh, I didn't see that headline went with that graph. But yeah, so that's
Destiny
why
is a
Kai Cenat is
debate
on there.
bro. Who is it? I've never heard of this. Am I just living in my own bubble? Who is Stephen Banel?
Sometimes that's for the best. Yeah, everyone highlighted as a
Maybe.
politician or pundit.
N-
Yeah, Destiny. I'm not familiar.
I'm no reference.
Willingness to debate right wing talking
I
points.
would I would listen to this person. Do
I
you
don't
bathe?
know.
Completely.
Interesting.
Okay. I mean, I know who Ben Shapiro was. Ben Shapiro has been on. Ben Shapiro appears on a lot of like liberal media as well. Pret Bahara. He has Heather Cox Richardson on, and he has a recent episode with Heather Cox Richardson, Kara Swisher, and Ested Herden. And I listened to that, but like the next episode was with him talking to Ben Shapiro, and they were very friendly.
I'm convinced that some of these like right wing YouTubers, such as a Ben Shapiro, yes, they are divisive, they're foul, they're vile, they're all these things. They also are, they embody a level of just grift. It's like similar to Candace Owens. Whether or not they believe in what they're saying is kind of irrelevant to their whole like media strategy. And I think that's why sometimes he's able to get himself platformed on like probably not like a full leftist media space, but at least like a liberal space, because now a lot of like liberal media, CNN is doing it, which I find really interesting. They are platforming right-wing pundits to appear like they are unbiased when really all they're doing is like moving everything center right.
And
So
like it's so interesting for Joe Rogan to say, "Oh, I'm not political at all." But here is election day, and here's all the political how political their content got. He had Donald Trump
mm,
on October 26, 2024. Then John Fetterman, which was a good thing. JD Vance, Elon Musk, Dave Smith,
mm,
Theo. Like he has all this political content leading up to election day. Who's Francis Foster?
hmm. Yeah, Joe Rogan, I'm not I remember him from Fear Factor. So to see him, rise to this is fascinating. It's also, I think, part of it, since he is the most listened to podcaster. I think it's also maybe indicative of the sheer numbers and like the demographics in the United States. Why he is the largest, for what it's worth, and that because he brands himself as apolitical, some of the like clips I've seen of him are just like random, like, "Do you believe in Sasquatch? Sasquatch is a real thing." Like, it's just so like off the wall that I think people deem him to be harmless when that's not necessarily the truth.
They have tried to paint this man as like apolitical for so long, but look at this
No,
graph.
he's clearly not apolitical.
Closer to the election, voting integrity, voting participation, other voting topics. This is the election cycle right here.
Yeah. I think one of the things, like maybe the
Joe
article might get
Rogan is
into,
all lit up here.
no, it might get into it a little more, but all of these things are paid and are generating money, which is to show that the Republicans understand, for what it's worth. I don't agree with any of it, but they understand how to have a media strategy
Mm.
in the modern digital age, and the Democrats clearly have failed at that. We really
Well,
need a new party, for what it's worth.
it's after 12 o'clock. Do you have time to talk about the DEI and
We
black
we can
brands?
for a little bit.
Okay, Stephanie, we wanted to hear your thoughts on the responses from the black brands.
Listen, one thing about the black capitalists, it was sad to see this point of view. I'm not gonna lie, but also unsurprising.
Right. What was sad about this is an almost 10-minute video.
It's a 10-minute video. You can watch it on YouTube. I watch it on YouTube, which Auntie Tab makes great earrings. They are in Target. I've tried to buy a pair a few times. They're always sold out. I love the vibrant colors. She's a very sweet spirit in general. no notes there. However, one of the things that's really interesting is because the main distributors, sorry, of her products are Amazon, Walmart, and Target. They came out this past week that they are shuttering and or downsizing all of their DEI programs. It should be noted, and one of the things that she did not say, all of these programs, the private sector that are being downsized or shuttered is because the companies are choosing to do so. There is no federal mandate telling them to do that. There's a federal mandate. An executive order was signed that has to do with federal employees. That has nothing to do with Target. Target chose of its own free will that they do not want to continue their diversity, equity, inclusion program. There are probably, and we were talking about this before, like reasons for that ever since the affirmative action Supreme Court case, which was students for fair admissions. Ever since that was decided, a lot of companies then started reacting very negatively towards any type of like race conscious policies, including any diversity, equity, inclusion policies. Unpopular opinion, most of these companies were not actually executing any DEI policies for their actual employees outside of the fact that it was PR for them. It was PR after everyone wanted to post their black square in 2020. It has ceased to be very effective PR for them. So they thought that they could just shutter these programs and people would get over it. Interestingly enough, and rightfully, a lot of black people are now saying, okay, fine, we're not going to Target. Tabitha Brown's entire statement was essentially boiled down to 10 minutes. If you don't want to shop at Target anymore and you're boycotting, I completely understand. However, think about the black businesses. What about we, the black capitalists and our businesses? What's going to happen to us if you don't come and buy our products? Which I'm very proud, at least on YouTube. I haven't seen the comments on Instagram. A lot of her supporters pushed back and were like, listen, I had to sit with this before I said this to you, Auntie Tab, but I cannot. I'm not gonna support a place that doesn't support me. I feel like we, the regular folks, are the field hands and you are the Negro in the house, and you telling me to support massa, I don't feel a way. That verbatim was a comment someone left, and I was like, oh, love that, because that's the energy people need to keep. Black capitalists will sell all of us and then be like, well, at least somebody is still here because we need the representation. And it took her 10 minutes to basically kindly be like, it takes a long time to get distribution. And it does. I understand. But girl, we not shopping at Target. We can't.
Well,
So that's where that's at. I
well,
think
I
it's
think there
interesting.
is no ethical consumption under capitalism. This is going to
Yes.
be like the dismantling of whatever is going to be deeply uncomfortable, even if we are
Yeah.
attempting to hold on
Boycotting
and
is
maintain
uncomfortable.
to it. Cause I saw Melissa Butler's the lip bar post, and it was essentially was like, yeah, girl, like you're hurting our business by boycotting Target, but do what you gotta do. And I'm like, they do have to walk this line. Then I have a friend who used to be in Target, and she's doing all these posts, and I'm like, girl, my sister worked for you. You were not running that business properly, so I can't even engage with your posts, cause like, but to start here, yeah, a lot of these companies did the DEI pushes as response to 2020
Yes.
because it was a way to capitalize
Yeah.
on,
Black Death.
their, yeah, capitalize on Black Death. But what is it called in the CPG world? It's like
Consumer product goods.
it's
It
like
was like, mm,
something good, something like like their where they use their philanthropic, where they use their
oh,
philanthropy,
social impact.
yeah, to social good or social impact,
So
right,
yeah.
where they use their philanthropy to make more money for them. And
Hmm.
so it endeared more black people and more people at large to shop with their brands by announcing these initiatives. So YouTube does, like YouTube, Facebook, Meta do all these programs. The CPG companies do all these programs to like, and like they're benefiting a small group of people. YouTube's was a pretty expensive, but like they stopped it, and they, as soon as like the first 2 years, good, they started watering down the offer as soon as we hit 2022, and like
And then
honestly,
they
we
cut it
don't even
off.
make it past 2023 anyway, and they didn't even
Mm-hmm.
need Trump to be in presidency. They cut all their creator programs.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok came about, and they was like, oh, they're not giving you nothing, so we're gonna give you even less. But now
Mm-hmm.
these companies, because for so long it allowed them to say, "Oh, you should shop with us because look at the ethical good we're doing. Shop with us because look at the good we're doing." even if those programs had their holes and had their problems. But now they're stopping it. And my friend who works in DEI, a black woman, was saying that their hands are kind of tied, though. She did extend the corporation some grace. And that the dismantling from at the Supreme Court level of affirmative action meant that now the only way to protect yourself against this alt right movement that wants to create a white utopia in the United States and wants to push back against multiculturalism, that the only way to protect yourself is that they don't have enough money to sue everybody.
So my pushback as somebody who used to work in DEI and got fired after 6 months for, and quote, Stephanie, you cannot only advocate for the blacks. That's what my old boss told me. And I was like, actually, I'm advocating for the blacks and the Latinos, since we are the least represented up in here, since this is tech. There are other companies such as Costco, surprisingly, I'm very surprised by this, Apple, JP Morgan, so Chase Bank, where they're doubling down on their DEI initiatives. Because again, like, we should never feel bad for a corporation. Some of the Apple is or is approaching to be $1 trillion company. They have enough money to fight the federal government. They have money. So they can go and give the legal team way too much work.
But is it worth fighting the federal government when the courts are stacked the way they're stacked?
I think so, yes, because somebody has to do it, and the court system is slow. The court system is so slow.
I don't know. I personally don't shop at Target. I really only
shop at Target it's too expensive.
Because I like the drive up feature. And the other thing that I have been thinking about, because I've been seeing all this discourse happening online, is social media, particularly with this like last hurrah of TikTok, has pushed so many of us to embrace antagonism. Because the amount of whataboutism, the amount of you're not doing this and you're not, and like that tone about people calling for boycotts is really, and the amount that everyone, people that I respect are feeding into this. As like, it's not that your thought process isn't valid, it's that why does it have to be put as an antagonistic rhetorical pushback and not a, hey, let's expand and build upon what you're trying to do. If we understand everyone doesn't have the means to boycott Walmart, are there ways we can think about filling in those gaps and giving grace to people who that is their only option? I don't need to get online and yell at people for not thinking about the elders in their community who don't have accessibility to diverse grocery stores. But I do think about, okay, well, how do I do that? And how do I encourage others to do that without wagging my finger and being like, y'all ain't shit, why y'all trying to boycott? And I feel like we've all taken this tone because that's how social media has pushed us to talk to each other. And we have to get away from that. We have to get away from antagonism being the way we approach conversations. And also understanding that commenters are most of the times, a lot of times, not always real people.
Shout out to Mark Zuckerberg for flooding everything with bots, which is why, like, the concept of this, that you are arguing with a bot, is wild.
Or just people that like to troll. It might be a human being behind that account who lives in the, it's just like, it's fun to sit online and argue with people. They get wild. Joy from, like,
that's a wild way to get dopamine.
But I think one of the things, the apps are addictive, so that dopamine hit is real.
Should delete them. As this is our job, I'm like, we should delete them. I think one of the things to point out the differences, because there's so many different arguments like converging at once. Tabitha Brown and somebody that owns or is in partnership with Target, because assumably Target, I'm almost positive the way they structured these partnerships with Black businesses, these Black businesses might not actually own the entirety of the product. I could guess with Tabitha Brown in some of her business lines, that's the case. That is a partnership with Target, so she can't get out of it until her contract is up. I think there's a difference between her trying to like nicely guilt people into, she says in the 10-minute video, you could come in Target and just buy from the Black products. That's what she says. I'm like, girl, people just don't want to come into Target. Just let them not come into Target. I think there's a difference there between people who are taking a very black and white approach to boycotting, because those people, instead of them yelling off everyone else, they should just realize like Montgomery bus boycott was 381 days. That only worked because the elders and the people that were disabled, their neighbors helped them. Their neighbor was like, okay, I know you take the bus, Miss Smith, I'm going to come pick you up. So instead of yelling at people, why don't you offer to go and grab their groceries when you take your high sedity self off
Yeah,
to
or
Whole Foods?
if you're already doing it and your thought is, well, if y'all are gonna boycott, you need to do this. Offer in a way that can be heard and not in a way that
Yeah.
just leads to an immediate argument. And I know that can be tiring because so often people try you on the internet. And I know, trust you, people try to manufacture drama with me all day, every day over the dumbest of things. And I be sitting there like, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? Where'd you come from? And you realize so many people just enjoy being nasty. Like they really, it's a great dopamine hit to have a negative
Oh, yeah.
opinion of someone and to be invested in that negative opinion always landing. Have you not been
So
on snark message boards?
I don't know. This is why me and the clock app never like fully got along. And so I'm kind of glad. I'm like, I'm glad I never fully invested into the thing, because it seems wild. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think there is, for the people thinking, oh, boycotts don't work because people cannot do them for long lengths of time. People can. You just have to get incentivize people of what is the end goal? What are we getting out of it? And then you can then figure out ways to help people so they can either participate if they can, or cause like the least amount of like detraction from mass participation, because you don't have to get every single person to participate. You just have to hit enough people where there is a significant drop off on the balance sheet. That's all.
Yeah, it's really not that hard to hit these corporations where it hurts,
Yeah,
and it doesn't need to be a total sum game.
it does.
It can just
Exactly,
be a large,
exactly.
like the movement. Like black women really thought we were doing something when we got back on TikTok talking about I'm drinking Starbucks again, and it's like didn't talk about the Starbucks boycott ever because I knew black folks wasn't boycotting Starbucks. Let me get my words out. I knew black people. We were, especially middle class black people in the suburbs, suburban moms,
It's not good.
the
It's not good
aesthetical
coffee.
girlies. Y'all was not boycotting Starbucks to begin with, so I wasn't fit to debate y'all on that, right? But the Starbucks boycott was effective because enough
Hmm.
people from a particular market hit them where it hurt, even though plenty of Americans were not paying attention to
Hmm.
the Starbucks boycott. McDonald's, even if it's not in the U.S., because the U.S. is not the only market, but if they hit, my homeboy works at one of these fast food places, and he was like, "Yo, the closing 2024 numbers were rough for a lot of food corporations because."
Hmm.
And like we don't even pay attention to the alt right or the crunchy mom pipeline. Like how many of us are crunchy moms? But like they be coming at Chick-fil-A every damn day over something. And so many of us are like, we're saying, why would they ever acquiesce to them? Because it hits their balance sheet. It
Yep.
just has to be a strong enough. It does not have to be everyone. It just has to be a consistent amount of people
Hmm.
that are tapping out and the potential of that spreading being enough for them to change their ways.
Yeah. It should be noted, and we could end on this. One of the funniest, I'm a corporation, I don't have money, of the pandemic to me was Cheesecake Factory. That after 2 weeks of lockdown, the Cheesecake Factory put up signs on all of their restaurants and stated, like, oh, we cannot pay the rent to the actual landlord that owned the land that the Cheesecake Factory sits on in the various malls. It doesn't even have to be a extended long period of time. It just has to be consistent and concerted. I do think, I hope that people, get to like, okay, well, what is the demand? Like, what do we want? Then, which would, in my opinion, should be an actual equitable diversity, equity, inclusion program that actually is benefiting more than just a select few black businesses. Because plenty of black people work at Target. That was my first job, a Starbucks in a Target.
I mean, my thing is
When I was
like to
16.
close out, it's going to be complicated.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little messy, and that's okay. We have to
Yeah.
learn to work through it rather than saying, ugh, throwing our hands up and being like, I'm done, I'm out.
Yes. And if
All
you
right.
haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our
Yes,
new
I was about to say the
events on our
same
channel.
thing. Look, we're here. Subscribe to Politics Popped. We are here Monday, Wednesday, Friday for at least another 2 weeks.
Why for Lisa? Oh, because yes, you're going on the vacation.
No,
Yes.
because we're going to go down to 2 days a week. God.
Oh, yeah. That too, because this is ambitious. It would generally be at 9:30 a.m. I was like,
But for now, you can find us Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Politics Pop Twitch and YouTube channel.
yes, go check out Twitch. Child, I don't know what's happening over there, but go over there and we'll see.
Thank
Might
you
as
for
well.
joining us. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.